Mr. Harris, you're right. That has been going on a long time. We just passed an ordinance that covers that kind of a vehicle. We got notice that we had to wait 30 days before it took effect. The police department, in their wise mode, keeping me from being overreactive, held us up another 30 days while we had a grace period. It'll be taking effect in the next couple of weeks, and you'll see that problem resolved. So you're right, and we do have a parking problem. And
it's been going on for years.
It was going on long before you brought it up, and we appreciate your attention to that. August 20th is going to be an exciting day for some people, not others.
I just wanted to also commend the city. I really like it. I think Supervisor Phillips and I very intentionally try to work closely with the city and their staff to try to accomplish some mutual goals. Why didn't our local governments work closer to achieve some things?
The homeless issue, and we've talked about this, we've worked on the creek down there by Constitution. Part of that property at the time was the county's. There's since been an agreement with the soccer fields. We've taken over part of that with a nonprofit that's going to develop that area. And we're working on an additional warming shelter for the future to get them off the street and into some transitional housing. As you know, we're building a 90-unit complex down on Salinas Street where they'll have apartments, so we can start getting these folks off the street and getting them the services that are required. And if we do that, they get out of your neighborhoods. And that's really the goal that has to be reached. We're aware of the problem. We've been trying to address it. We're working very diligently, trying to get these folks off the street so there's less problems. And the sooner we can do that, the better for you.
Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? So my name is Rosa. I'm the commander with the Sheriff's Office. I'm in charge of, it's called Community Services Division. It's basically our Special Operations Division. Have a bunch of assets in my division, to include vehicle abatement, which dabs in the world of code enforcement, which may be an important issue for the community.
We're all essentially part of public works for the county. A lot of the problems around Creekbridge and around the creek itself is on county property, regardless of the fact that we lease it out to the city for the soccer fields and part of the parks as well. At the end of the day, because it's our property, we'll be responsible for the cleanup. So, as you're going to hear today, enforcement, we're going to decide where that lies. But at the end of the day, because it's our property, essentially, we'll be cleaning up some of the encampments once we resolve the issues.
On the homeless issues on Gabilan Creek, I was around in 2012, 2014 when we would work closely with the sheriff and Phil Higginbotham, and he actually cited the city because there were homeless camps below the Creekbridge golf course. And so we had to go in with Phil, with the county, working in partnership. And so that's what I anticipated to happen last September. And we've just hit a bunch of hiccups. And then as the mayor talked about the city's lease of these fields north of us. Today and last week we were out actually mowing the weeds on the fields north of the soccer fields as if it were our property because we want it to look good. We want it to look good when our community gets there. We've been out. I know the county was successful earlier this year in having the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers talk to the people living in dug out boroughs. We had fires there Friday. We've had fires on a monthly basis. So it's just costing us a lot more than just homeless services. We're having to deploy our public safety crews there on a regular basis. So to eradicate that, we have posted a cleanup for August 20th, and I'm happy to work with the county on that. But unfortunately, due to the rodeo and other things, we've had to wait until August 20th to get that going. So that's the status as I know it. And
one person we don't have up here is Henry Espinoza. He's acting director for social services. Do you have anything you want to say? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I didn't mean to put a target on you.
Adele is still here, but definitely we'll focus there. But we're very interested in being as whatever support we can be, and I'm looking forward to learning tonight as well.
Our goal is eventually to build a shelter where we can move them off the street and get them into transitional housing and get them away from the neighborhoods so we can get them with the social services. I'm glad they're here tonight, with the mental health issues that are involved, Some of these folks have mental health issues, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and it's a full board of what can be wrong with America. And it's not just in Salinas, and it's not just in Creekbridge, it's everywhere. I think the chief's been assigning officers. I happened to be in Creekbridge the other day, and yes, the officers are driving through there. They're working on gathering up the people that need gathering down there in the gullies, and they are starting to arrest the people that need arrested.
Dealing with the homeless is a difficult issue. Sometimes they don't make the best neighbors, but we've found that we have to be more vigilant in providing services and providing a place where we can provide services. And so one of the areas that we're looking at is 1220 Natividad Road. We've looked at that in conjunction with the city and the county. And there's another location down on Laurel that we're considering putting a temporary homeless shelter in so that we can provide the right kind of services. It has some advantages. It's near the sheriff's department, it's near the hospital, it's near social services, and it's near the health department. So those are two areas we're looking amongst a lot of other areas. And anything I think that we're doing is in conjunction with the city and the county working together.
As a newer county supervisor, I always say, I try to approach policy and how we serve the community with compassion and care. You know, my father was minister for most of his life. He's retired now. But every time we pray, we'd always pray for those less fortunate, those who are homeless. And I grew up with those kind of values. So when we opened this temporary shelter, which is now only 2 blocks from Main Street, right across Councilmember Jimmy Panetta's office, they're literally right across the street, across the Steinbeck post office. It's near the court. We wanted to do it and show the community that if we could run a shelter but do it right. So we made sure that in that agreement with Community Housing Solutions, we also had 24-hour security. We had a little gated gate around it, so when the public passes by on West Alisal, it's not visible. When people start lining up or they got their bikes tied up with their locks outside the shelter. Since we opened that shelter, we haven't had any complaints to the county. We haven't had any crimes happen there. We haven't seen loitering. We haven't seen an accumulation of belongings. But what we have seen is it's full. Right now it's almost at capacity, almost 80 people. For a while it was about 20, 22 children staying there, most from the ages of about 8 to 13 years old, mostly young girls. Recently even some infants, little babies. So when people try to say, well, it's summer, do we need a shelter? I said, well, this ain't the Central Valley, it's not Fresno. At night, regularly here, it can be 48 degrees, 50-degree temperatures, very cold. So for me, that showed that if we run it right, with the right security, with the right monitoring, the right staff, that it can be done successfully. And I hope that when we try to find another location, that we have the same commitment to run it right, address any community concerns right away if they arise. We try to be responsive to that. But so far, this current site is working well. There's different points of view, of course, whether it should remain there, but we're also looking to find a temporary location while we build a permanent one.
As was mentioned, the purpose of the homeless shelter is to get those people out of the streets and out of the creek area. So it has a real beneficial effect. And as Supervisor Alejo mentioned, we're set to get close to $13 million from the state to move forward and start really making an impact on the homeless issues.
Do you have a location in mind where you might build a homeless community? Well, we've already built the homeless community. Now we've got to figure out where we're going to put a shelter to put all these folks, because they're everywhere right now. There's several locations we've looked at, and as you know, there's several experts, some probably in this room, that can tell us what we ought to do with them, put them on buses, you know, and this kind of thing. We've looked at property on Laurel Drive, we've looked at Natividad and Laurel, we've met with numerous folks, we looked at buildings that were available. We had a lot of people that wanted to sell us property that none of you would have been happy if we would have bought, trust me. So we're still working on the exact location. We've met with a group of people that can build this project if we designate a location somewhere between 4 and 5 weeks. It would be a temporary facility, it would have multiple offices, it would have places for men, women, children, families, And then we can put the offices in there to get the services from social services so that we can extract these people from the life they're currently living and get them out of your backyards, let's just face it.
I'm going to say something that is not popular, but I want to remind everyone, homelessness is not a crime. And, you know, when I go to International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference, when I go to the California Police Chief State Conference, when I go to regional meetings, when I go to training abroad, wherever I go, homelessness, 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 it is a worldwide, and in particular a United States, nationwide problem. So it is, we could lock the doors and spend the rest of the week just talking about homelessness. So we can't make people move. We can't tell them, no, you have to live in this place. So we have to work with people. We have to find what appeals to them. They need to be assessed. They all have different things going on. I know I sound extremely mushy probably to many of you, but that is the reality of what I've learned in my 25 years, you know, working in policing. This is not we'll just make them go to, you know, that neighborhood over there. So I've seen so much movement in Salinas with our own city, in particular with us coming together and really brainstorming this issue. So, and I see a lot of progress in a very short period of time. So if you pay close attention, you'll see that I mentioned to someone first thing tonight is, you know, baby steps. They count. We are making baby steps.
And I'm going to hit it real quick on parking. We have a company that we've hired that is doing our parking downtown, and we contracted it out, and the parking tickets are being issued at about twice the rate of what we used to do when we had our own employees doing it, and that's all this company does. So we're starting to see them expand. We're going to expand the contract. You're going to see them in your neighborhoods dealing with some of these issues. The object of parking tickets is to get the public to obey the rules so that the rest of us have a decent place to park. And eventually we'll get into the issue of H2 workers and renting of houses and putting 25 people into a 3-bedroom apartment or a house.
We need to have a place, and we don't in this county, and we need one on both sides of it, where we can provide services. And there's a number of the homeless that you'll never get out of being homeless, but there are a number of them that we can provide services to them if we have a facility where we can do it and provide the alcohol counseling, the drug counseling, the employment issues to deal with it. And it's important that we have a place like that where we can provide the services, because we can make an impact. And it is something that we have to live with, and we have to deal with, and we have to provide services for them. The positive thing, I think, the city of Salinas, the peninsula cities haven't been as willing to step up as the city of Salinas have to start working with the county and us working together and with social services to provide these services.
It's not enough to do a shelter. Shelter's always been temporary. We have to have that transitional housing to move people into safe places so they feel secure, and then we can give them those services, the health service, mental health services, and hopefully not have to have them return to living on the streets, which is not safe for them, and of course we deal with a lot of other issues. But those counties who have done it right, the counties have invested in buying transitional housing, so that when you have people at these navigation centers or shelters, when they say, let's get them out of the shelters and put them into transitional housing, our county needs to do more of that. So I hope that Monterey County, with those new dollars that will come, we can build some of those transitional housing. So then we're showing the community, we're moving people out.
I gotta say, we have the homeless problem in Castroville, and we have it now in Manzanita Park, across from the Primdale Shopping Center. So the homeless, it isn't just in that one area or just downtown, it's permeating all over our county. But non-emergency number for the police department, 758-7321. 758-7321.
Unregistered vehicles driving around the street that are more than a year out of registration. I've seen a lot of them here in Salinas. cars that are stored on the street in front of people's homes with tarps over the top of them, vehicles that are stored in driveways with tarps over them unregistered, RVs that are on people's properties that I understand, according to the CC&R rules, RVs and any type of vehicle is not allowed to be stored on private property. I'd like to know if that's still in effect.
As far as RVs stored on private property, they can be stored behind a 6-foot fence on residential properties. That is okay, that is within our codes.
You don't need a permit.
No, no permit required. Inoperable vehicles, such as unregistered vehicles, one of the things that we look at is if there's anything more than that. Is there flat tires? Is it missing? Is it dismantled? Is it missing an engine, missing parts, missing pieces? I want to go after something more tangible than just an unregistered vehicle. But if it's dismantled, it's in a way that it's an eyesore, definitely code enforcement will deal with that on private property.
Okay.
Anything that's on the street, unregistered over 6 months, that can be towed, but that's going to be either the police department or our private company, which is Serco, that will cite the vehicles. But they are definitely citable. The thing is, we have to know where they're at. Once we have an address, we can go out, investigate, and do the necessary steps needed to get into compliance.